the sidelines. Has a man wide open. It's tipped. It's picked off. MJ Devonshire. Got space. He's going to take it to the end zone. Pittsburgh takes the lead.
He loves those moments. It reminds me of last year in the Garden against St. John's. And guys just stepped up. Blake hits a what the hell 3. You know, we're like, what are you doing? And he's done that all year.
Klicka out to Bizzario. It's over. The Pitt Panthers have upset Wisconsin.
Anybody if he hits his field goal. Up and got it. Sauls does it again.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Semple Fi podcast. I'm your host, Zach Kaminsky. I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Mason Kling and Kent Vanderwood. And fellas, it's Victory Tuesday.
Turn those victory lights on, baby. Want to know?
Been on? They've probably been on for a while. When do you think they turn them off? Probably today? Probably off?
Yeah, I kind of forget.
They're probably up there.
Nah, I think they just keep them for the weekend.
Yeah, it's just
right?
a weekend thing.
Yeah, but if it's Labor Day, they probably went off today. They're probably on yesterday.
You turn them off on a holiday.
Oh, true.
Well,
True. Nobody's working. Nobody can turn them off.
They left the keys at home. All right. Well, first off, Mason, how we doing?
Doing well. I mean, you can't complain about 1-0. Handled business. Had a good week of football. Not a lot of great games this past weekend, but there were some. So it was good. Real college football was back.
That's right. Kent, how we doing?
we're great, Zach. Got to watch us put some terror in the eyes of the Terriers this weekend, so always a good way to go into a new week.
Dude, we'll get to it, but I feel bad for that quarterback. He was getting terrorized this week. All right, so honestly, pretty good weekend of college football, granted the slate we had. We're going to start with the Pitt game, obviously, as we always do. So, Pitt 45, Wofford 7. As always, it's an FCS team. You can't read too much into it. However, I'm going to read too much into it, and you can't stop me.
Well, it's funny they didn't cover the actual line. Well, I think was 38.5 or 39, depending on where you got it.
Was it
Wait,
that
check
much?
my math there. Yeah, they did not cover that. But on last podcast, I said if we won by 36.5 and held them to under 14 points, that was a cover in our books. So
That's a Semple Fi cover, baby.
that's right. It doesn't win you any money, but it's a Semple Fi cover.
Yeah, if we were running a Semple Fi sportsbook, we'd be losing so much money on that bet. But thank God we're not. So let's start with my first observation. I watched this game end to end. I was locked in all whole time. As far as having a veteran O-line for the game, we didn't look that good at running the ball. I think that what they got to do this week is they got to hit the chutes. They got to learn to fire out low. We were really good at running the ball last year, and somehow we're just standing up to block run plays. And while we did have some success running the ball, we didn't have a ton.
It was that first drive scared me. The first drive did not look great because a lot of those things that you said, Zach, which luckily that's why we play an FCS team week 1.
Yep.
Get kind of some of those. You saw a little bit of like first game, new quarterback kind of. Not that Phil played bad, but just I don't know. There's offensive line adjustments that come with that, so saw a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think they definitely look good in pass blocking. We'll get to Phil right after, but I'm very glad we didn't start off the year with another Power 5 and Power 5 match because we could not run the ball until well into the second half at that point, and they were just gassed because they aren't the same level of athlete they're going to get at a Power 5 school. Let's move on to Phil. I actually thought that Phil looked pretty good. He put the ball in the right spot. He did have some accuracy issues, like kind of was the concern. There was that deep ball the Bub means they just didn't hit. There was a really bad late throw to the flat that almost got picked. But I think in general, he looked pretty calm in the pocket. His numbers are pretty good. At one point, he had like 8 different completions to 8 different guys. So, hot take, Phil Dracovic, possible communist. Not trying to cause a red scare in Pittsburgh, but we have to keep our eyes out for that one. And but the mobility of Phil Dracovic, like I've been saying all offseason, it looked night and day with this offense. He had the running touchdown from about 20 yards out, which, if you're keeping track, that is more than Keaton Slovis' entire rushing total from last year was on that one touchdown. But there were a lot of plays that he extended with his feet. He moved out of the pocket, found the open guy a little bit after, and that's what's been missing. And I thought that was very nice to see, even if it is week 1 FCS.
Yeah, I don't think you could have asked for a better homecoming game for the kid. Definitely. I mean, even though it's like FCS week 1, whatever, you still got to think there's a lot of pressure on him, being back in Pittsburgh, playing in front of that many people for the first time. And he lived up to the hype. He looked pretty solid.
I'm not sure I'm sold on him yet. We gotta play a real opponent. Like you mentioned, there was a couple scares. There was a couple probably throws he should have made. Just missed throws. I mean, it's week 1. We'll give everybody a little bit of a pass there. But just overall, not fully sold. Doesn't really have a tight spiral. I don't love that.
You can't get over the spiral.
I can't. But yeah, I mean, for what this game was, didn't really show a whole lot of the playbook. Just kind of running basic stuff against an inferior opponent. Not trying to put a lot of our actual offense on film. And for what it was, I was pretty happy with Phil's performance overall, but
that definitely could have contributed to some of the run game stuff too, and not getting too exotic with anything, just kind of leaning on them until, like Zach said, they kind of got exhausted because we have better athletes, and maybe planning on that rather than breaking out some of the better scheme stuff. I don't know.
I did like the end around they had to I think it was Nobuko. That was a pretty cool play. I think that was probably the most exotic they got. As far as Phil goes, I agree, Kent. The spirals look kind of disgusting sometimes, but for the most part, the ball goes where it needs to. Outside of that one throw where he overthrew Bub Means by 2 steps, I think. I mean, for granted, he was 17 of 21 or something. He wasn't throwing all over the yard, but I agree with you. I'm not sold. I just think it's a good sign, especially with the mobility. Anything else on Phil? I'm going to run through other stuff.
I think he's just going to look a lot slower. He already didn't look super fast. He's mobile. He will run. I'm not sure how fast he's going to look against an FBS team.
He's a strider.
It's he doesn't need to be Lamar Jackson.
He doesn't. He just needs to be able to pick up a first down, when he has space and that kind of thing. The threat needs to be there.
I was going to say, this is going to be a crazy comp, but he's going to be the guy. He's going to, when he's moving, when he's running, he's going to look to throw first. He's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Crazy comp. I know he's not going to be that good, but he's going to move. He's going to move his feet. He's going to avoid pressure while still looking to throw. If he has to run, he will, but he's not looking to run first.
He's going to be Patrick Mahomes.
I'm going to make an even crazier comp. Phil is 6'5" and he's mobile. You know what my comp is? Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is 6'7". He looks slow as hell when he's running, but he's so tall that he just covers so much ground when he's jogging across the field. He can make all these plays in right field. I think Phil isn't that fast, but he's just so big that his normal steps are 1.5 times mine. So,
wow, we're going cross sport. All right, even crazier comp. Let me give my comp. I'll say Joe Flacco.
Okay.
Joe Flacco early on could make some plays with his feet. Also a former Pitt QB. I think it's a relevant comp. And he's also
like it.
really tall.
Okay.
It's Phil Jerkovich, the next KD, next on Undisputed.
The kind of slim Reaper. Okay.
Wait, one other thing I have on Phil is that the game day signs did not disappoint, and I can't wait for even more of that. Just like the jerk me off.
Oh yeah.
There were quite a few of those kind of signs that I saw, and I don't think it'll ever get old. It'll probably get old.
I don't think it'll ever get old. Okay. Moving on real quick, non-Phil discussion. Running back room, I think we're still looking for a true number one. I think how I have it right now, you have Hammond and Carter as 1A, 1B. Kind of surprising that Carter was 1B, but he looked like a muscle hamster bowling ball, which I love. We have two muscle hamster bowling balls at top backs. Sibo is sort of your change of pace guy. Derek Davis playing with the twos. Tight end room looks really good. You had all four guys getting involved. Bart had that great catch in the red zone. Renda got a catch, Epps, and Carter Johnson got his first FBS touchdown in the game. So tight end room looking good, looking deep. Like they're going to be using a lot of tight ends this year. I also noticed that Gavin was being used more in sort of the that H-back role, like I said in the preview, where I think he's better out of. And you have Johnson and Epps as inline guys, which I'm very much looking forward to. And then defense, D-line is nasty, as advertised. More or less, like you can't take defense away from an FCS team, but the guys are dudes.
Yeah. Overall, I'd say I was just happy to see us put them away early, and we've had too many Pitt games over the years against what should be an easy win. Be closer than they should be. So, overall, that's my biggest thumbs up from the weekend.
All right, let's move into recapping the rest of week one. I'm going to run through a couple games from Thursday and Friday real quick before we get into the big games from Saturday. Thursday, Utah 24, Florida 11. Utah did this without a lot of their major contributors. A lot of guys on defense were out. Cam Rising was out, as well as Grant Keithy, their top tight end. Florida's a whole steaming pile of ass, in my opinion. On Friday, Louisville 39, Georgia Tech 34. These are two pretty mid teams. As far as the quarterbacks go, is kind of the story of this. Jack Plummer can be harassed, as we saw in the first half, and then Haynes King was good in the first half, but kind of bad in the second half, leading to Georgia Tech blowing that 14-point lead late in the game. All right, Saturday, let's get into probably the biggest game of the week, the biggest storylines. Colorado 45, TCU 42. Either of you guys watch this game?
I didn't catch a lot of it, disappointingly.
Oh, really?
Unfortunately, I caught the first half, and then I had to leave, and I missed the second half.
This was a fun game. Just a lot of offense here. Basically, my takeaways are as follows. One, Deion is here. He is going to be able to recruit guys off this. I don't know, his personality outsized, as we all know. A lot of fun going after reporters after the game. Like, I knew you guys didn't believe me. How about now? I kind of just love that. Shadur, his kid, is a real ass quarterback. He set a Colorado passing record for their debut with like 500 yards or some shit like that. Travis Hunter, that guy's a dude. That guy is a dude. You can see why schools like Florida State, Alabama all wanted him. How many snaps did he play? Like 100 something? Like, he was excellent. And then sort of talk about the game and not just three guys. TCU is probably taking a huge step back this year. They lost so much from that playoff run team. But Colorado has a lot of other dudes at the skill positions, like that running back who took that 4th and 2 for a long touchdown. You had the USF transfer wide receivers, Jimmy Horn and something Weaver, who had big games. I think they both had 100 yards in that game, 100 yards receiving in that game. line depth is a little concerning when they get into like conference play, but my prediction for this year is that they're going to cause problems for USC when they play each other because they're just going to throw it all over the yard at each other.
I'd like to issue a formal apology to Deion Sanders and his team in Colorado because I said they might not win 3.5 games, and I think that makes me look like a big dummy now. And when he got on that podium after the game, it felt like he was, not that I'm media, but it felt like because I was down on them, it felt like I was in that group. Also want to give him props because his pregame speech, they kind of took clips of it, fired me up. It fired. It was an all time. It was like Kirby Smart before the national championship. It was just an incredible. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, I
have
was
seen
actually going to mention that
chills.
myself. That pregame speech had me ready to run through a brick wall too. So, just great coach's speech.
Yes, I mean, say what you want about Deion from like a scheme perspective or whatever, but he proved it this past Saturday that the guys are going to play for him. So if you can get that, like, just get them, like Ken said, ready to run through a brick wall. Turns out you can beat a lot of talent at this level.
So I mean, overall, I feel like we'll see how TCU plays out this year. Obviously, good week 1 win for Colorado, but yeah, time will tell a little bit with just how good they might be.
I don't know if they received any votes prior to the first AP poll, but now they're up at 22, I believe.
22, yeah.
Probably one of the bigger jumps that happened.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I mean, talking about like it's sort of like a lethal combination, right? You've got Deion firing his guys up, then you got Sean Lewis, former Semple Fi case race draft pick, running that offense, and like he had some pretty good offenses at Kent State, but now that he's got like the talent that Deion can bring in at the skill positions, like that's a scary combination. Like you said, Mason, before the season, I was on that train of 3.5 seems high for Colorado, but right now, I don't think that. I'd have to look at their schedule more in depth, but I think they get to at least 4. I don't think it's out of the question. They're going to get someone in the Pac-12.
Yeah, well, I mean, and not to jump ahead in the preview here, but they get Nebraska next week, who didn't look great this past week.
Yuck.
So there are probably some games they can go again if you beat the reigning national champ or national champ runner-up, I should say.
National runner-up, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. Penn State 38, WVU 15. I watched this game just to scout WVU. I have some quick thoughts on this. Defense was not great, especially against the pass. They were okay against the run. WVU can run the ball up the middle, but not on the outsides. CJ Donaldson is still a dude. Did you guys see that he was wearing red contacts during this game?
That's psycho behavior. Nobody wants to block a guy with red eyes.
Dude, completely psycho look. Their quarterback, Garrett Green, is not the guy. He cannot throw the ball. He throws ducks. He loves to scramble, but Pitt's probably going to need a spy on him because he loves to just take off after like 2 seconds. Then WVU had this like stupid-ass trick play that didn't work. So their quarterback pitches to their backup, who's a running back, and then he got like sacked at the boundary, but that's going to show up against Pitt. I'm just going to book that. That's going to happen. I'm looking forward to it. It's probably going to go for like an 80-yard touchdown, knowing Pitt, but that's sort of my psychic cognition talking to me from the future. That's all I have in that game, though.
You're crazy if you think that James Franklin didn't know that line.
Oh, my God, dude.
What a backdoor cover to make it, He had some boosters to keep happy or something because I think the score was a little bit closer, or the game was closer than the score kind of led on.
Yeah,
it still was 100% in Penn State's favor all that time, but that last touchdown to cash 20.5 was pretty funny.
Yeah. They're going to have an Iowa-style gambling scandal come up pretty soon. Book it.
Well, speaking of Iowa, since you mentioned that, did you guys see the thing that Brett France his son, I guess, is the OC, right?
Kirk's the head coach. Brian's the son. Yeah.
Brian, sorry. There's something in his contract that he needs to average 25 points a game to not get fired. And they only put up 24. And I don't know. It's just very funny that's going to be the number for him to watch all season. And they only put up 24 week one.
That's against Utah State as well. Granted, they have a couple easy games coming up, but like, do you think they're gonna be able to make it up in these next two games? And they get like Penn State, Wisconsin, Minnesota, even the Nebraska defense looked pretty good. Like,
no shot.
They're gonna fire that guy.
They needed Utah State to not be a point below the average that he needed to stay, and they were not. So yeah.
They need to give themselves some running room, and they just shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I just think that's a very hilarious contract stipulation, and I'm going to keep my eye on it all season now.
Yep, we're gonna have Ferentz watch.
Speaking of guys that might get fired, how did Neil Brown look?
Shitty.
He looked like he was climbing into his coffin.
Well, you want to talk about guys who are getting fired? How about Jeff Hafley at Boston College, who lost to NIU in overtime?
Oof.
So, like, I think we have I saw this on Twitter. One of my friends, I think it's Will Warren, said, no longer we're not doing hot seat anymore. We're doing Halloween watch, where these coaches are on a list if they're going to get fired by Halloween. Boston College head coach, number one with a bullet. Losing to NIU at home is terrible. Also, his quarterback's last name is Castellanos, so I don't think there's any relation to the Phillies guy, but I'll keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, that was a tough look.
Yeah. Really quick, running through other games before we get to the big ones. Ohio State 23, Indiana 3. They look shitty. Washington 56, Boise 19. Michael Penix, hello, welcome to the Heisman race. UNC 31, South Carolina 17. Drake May, still good. Sorry for your win total bet, Kent. But since Spencer Rattler got sacked 9 times at 0 turnovers, that is a true hard dick warrior. And then last thing on Saturday, Wyoming 35, Texas Tech 33 in double overtime. Andrew Peasley, the Wyoming quarterback, is the Semple Fi quirked up white boy of the week. He can't throw. He's a terrible passer. He can only run the ball, and he wears a do-rag under his helmet. That's a quirked up white boy.
Wave check.
Yeah. Okay. Sunday, Monday. Florida State 45, LSU 24, Duke 28, Clemson 7. I'm getting on my soapbox. I was right about both these teams. I was right. You doubted me. I was right.
We also got our first ACC greater than SEC action
Feed it to me.
ACC with that LSU Florida State game.
Yeah.
So
no, it was.
And
No, you're good. I was gonna. The Duke game, I believe my quote was no chance that they beat Clemson. So yeah, I'm gonna follow my pride with that. I'm gonna admit, yeah, I was wrong on that one. Clearly they had, a lot of really costly red zone turnovers. That was pretty much the story of the game. But yeah, Duke deserved to win that, or
Hey, Kent, at least you didn't have Clemson to win the ACC, which looks like the biggest fucking Dumbo move of the century after the way Florida State looked and the way that Clemson looked this past week. Duke's going to have a squad, though.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, Clemson defensively is still there. Their front seven looked great still. A couple questions on the back end, but Duke, that offense, when it looked good later in the game, when they made Clemson quit. Like, they could run over them. They had a couple timely passes. But my big thing with Clemson is their offense still looks bad. I think when we were talking about in the preview, I think I said there were 2 Cade Klubniks last year. One from the ACC title game where he looked fantastic against North Carolina, and one from the Orange Bowl where he looked kind of bad against Tennessee. We got Tennessee Cade Klubnik. And now the question is, Was it not DJ? DJ looked pretty good in the win Oregon State had earlier in the day, but now it just looks like sort of the same offense. And I'll be honest, for a supposed playoff contender, Clemson has way too many white wide receivers. Way too many.
Well, and I mean, Will Shipley, white running back too. They're all
Well, he's
team.
actually good.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah, but he didn't look. I mean, like there weren't any plays, and this is probably a credit to Duke's defense. But the way that some people talked about him in the preseason is like this guy that was just like a game breaker. You didn't see that really, so they contained him and the entire offense pretty well. There was a very funny jinx. I forget who was calling the game, but I was watching this one a pretty good amount, and at one point they were like, the last time Clemson was ranked this low, they won the championship. And then I'm pretty sure Duke scored a touchdown like right after that to pretty much like seal the game. So
do you know who Duke's last top 10 win was against?
No.
Clemson. Yeah, it was like something like 30 years ago, maybe 40, but yeah, last top 10 win was against Clemson. Circle back to Florida State, or unless you have anything else.
I mean, if Clemson could figure out how to run the read option without fumbling, then they would have been way closer in this game. There was at least two fumbles in the red zone where Cade just tried to pull the ball and the running back was expecting to keep it, or vice versa, and just left the ball right on the ground for Duke to scoop up. So
that's like inexcusable to me, though. That's literally what you work on the entire offseason is like those days when you don't have contact practices and like you literally have months to work.
Exactly. And when you have, a new offense, new OC, like that's just not how you just can't come out week one as a top 10 team and have those types of mistakes.
Yes. It's not even like he was a freshman running back either. Like I think both fumbles, if I'm not mistaken, were at the hands of Phil Maffa, who has had significant playing time behind, Will Shipley, and like Klubnik it's not like it was his first start. He's made his first two starts on pretty big stages. Like Kent said, those are inexcusable mistakes. I don't know. It was just bad situational football. So we are preying on the downfall of Clemson as always. All right. Real quick before we get into week 2, Florida State, Louisiana State. Florida State out-hit them. I am personally of the belief that they were told to hit them hard. Fuck the penalty. Like they got a ton of penalties in that first half, but they were told to set the tone. And I think it worked because Louisiana State quit in the second half.
Yeah, I saw the one where Jalen Daniels like tried to hurdle people, and then I'm not sure who it was from Florida State, but when he was in the air, somebody came through and it wasn't even like an illegal hit, but it was like a perfect form tackle and just punched him into the ground, and it was
a WWE move.
Yeah, it literally did look like a steel cage match.
Yeah, the only other thought is that I was pretty high on Florida State receivers. Keon Coleman, as soon as he got away from Michigan State, he looked unguardable. He went nuclear, 3 touchdowns. Also, Johnny Wilson, their 6'7" receiver, only makes difficult catches. All the easy ones he drops. I mean, even though Louisiana State lost, I think they're still a pretty good team. They got some stuff to figure out, obviously, but like, I just think that Florida State is that much better. If that makes sense.
They looked really good. Also, Brian Kelly, probably a lesson to not talk before the game.
Oh yeah.
So, I love the players' responses after the game to the question about whether it motivated them or not. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. They know. Hot seat, Dabo and Brian Kelly.
So, looking ahead, I mean, obviously Pitt plays Florida State at home in November. I'm really looking forward to that one. Going to have to make the trip up for that.
I mean, at this point, obviously would love to see Pitt beat them, but based off what I saw last week, like ACC is theirs to lose. They have all the talent, they have everything, they need. So
it's a lot of respect, but this is a Pitt pod, so we're believing in the Pitt Panthers.
Yeah.
as far as like, okay, so you mentioned a little bit ago. Sorry to mute myself. The conference is theirs to lose, and I kind of agree with that. Based on what we saw from Clemson week 1 against Duke, I don't think they're really going to pose a threat to Florida State because they're probably not going to be able to keep up with that offense. If they win that game, the hardest game they have left is probably us, unless they play Duke. I actually don't know. I'm going to pull that up right now. Oh no, they get Duke at home, so realistically, their hardest game left is us, November 4th. So my thing is, I think I'm very excited for that game. Florida State's going to be a great team, but they're super physical. So is Pitt, and like that's going to be some fun football to watch. As those guys are smashing into each other. You know that Pat Narduzzi is not going to let an opportunity down to have his guys tee off on somebody. So
it'll be a fun one.
An early one circled on the calendar for sure. A lot of football between then and now, so we'll see. Just see how things play out.
All right, you guys want to talk about week 2?
Yep.
All right. We'll start with Pitt. 6:30 p.m. Saturday on the CW
Let's go.
Network. Cincinnati comes to town. And before we get into any sort of ball talk, the River City Rivalry trophy, the big old fucking ship steering stick, will not be returning.
Yeah, that's kind of I don't know. We had like, why not? That was part of the. Every good rivalry has a trophy. Every good rivalry has a trophy. Paul Bunyan, Iron Bowl, like it just makes sense.
Actually, you know, I don't think
I was going to say the backyard brawl does not have a trophy.
That's also a problem. Bring it. We need to design a trophy for the backyard brawl. I don't even know what it's making.
We'll make it a backyard with a swing set and a treehouse.
That's where we can get the guys going. Yeah, no, that is sad. Someone needs to honestly do like a Danny Ocean style mission to rescue the trophy from wherever it's sitting in storage and just bring it to the game. Or honestly, someone should make a replica trophy and bring it to the game. Obviously, if Pitt loses, you have to smash it into pieces. But if we win, obviously you get that trophy on the field somehow. I'm not going to give you any advice. You know, you got to figure that out on your own. But bring the trophy back.
Yeah, trophies are always nice. Then again, you know, can't have 3 rivals. Gotta pick and choose a little bit here. I'm not good.
All right, so would we rather have the River City trophy back, or would we rather create a new one?
100% create a new one.
Okay, fair.
The River City one is so delightfully stupid. I don't know. I kind of
love it. It just feels like it got pulled out of an old-timey cartoon, so.
Yeah.
Each their own.
Someone's twirling their 16-inch long mustache while they're
why I oughta.
Why'd they get rid of the trophy?
I got no idea where the trophy went. Okay, let's talk some ball. So, as far as Cincinnati goes, we did talk Pitt earlier. I don't really know what to expect from Pitt because, you know, again, FCS game. Let's talk Cincinnati. Emory Jones came over here from Arizona State, formerly at Florida. My thought on that is instead of entering the transfer portal, that boy should have entered the LinkedIn portal. Get a job. It is your 6th year in college football, and you're not that good. I've got the stats pulled up here. From his year as a full-time starter at Florida, he completed about 65% of his passes at about 8 yards per attempt, 19 touchdowns, 13 picks. In his 8 games at Arizona State, he completed 63% of his passes for 7.7 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns, 4 picks. I know he had a huge game against Eastern Kentucky last week, but once again, that is another FCS team. I put no stock in you beating a bad FCS team. I mean, he had like a crazy stat line from that game, but don't care. as far as talking about the team, I'm going to borrow from my friend Ryan's previews over at Meet at Midfield. Their O-line is very much a patchwork O-line. A lot of FCS call-ups and P5 sort of backups that were looking for a starting role. Not a big fan of this O-line. The receiver room is their top three guys look like Xavier Henderson, Braden Smith, and Evan Prater, who's a former quarterback for the Bearcats. And then if I'm going to give Cincinnati a compliment, it's their defensive front. They have a very good top four guys. You have D tackles Dante Corleone and Jawan Briggs. And you have Malik Vaughn and Utah State transfer Daniel, I'm going to say Grizak at the edge positions. It's a pretty good group. Not a lot of guys behind them. But when you look at the other defensive positions, linebackers and D-backs, they lost their top three linebackers and 5 out of 7 of their top defensive backs. If I'm going to say one thing for this game that I want to see is that looking at that depleted secondary and linebacker room, it's time to show if this passing game actually made strides this offseason. I think that's obviously I want to see the running attack look better against better talent. I want to see them actually get some push off the ball instead of having Rodney and Carter get hit at the line. But I think, like I said, this is a team with a depleted secondary. It's time to show if the offseason paid off for Phil and the receivers.
Yeah. I think that the line is at 7.5. I think that's a little bit of a disrespectful line. And I think bookmakers probably still figuring out, you don't get to see a lot from week one. But I think the way that we match up against them, the pass rush that we're going to have kind of going at Emory Bates.
Emory Jones.
Yeah, I think it's going to be enough to be a good amount more than, 7 points. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the one thing to consider is like Emory Jones is a mobile quarterback. Pitt's defense have done a good job in the past of dealing with mobile quarterbacks. My concern here is that it's pretty early in the season, so you've got to let the linebackers really we're probably going to be spying Emory Jones on most plays if I had to guess. You're going to need to see the linebackers step up and play a really good game to keep him in the pocket and not let him get off big runs. But I think that's my biggest defensive concern as far as this game goes.
Yeah, obviously not going to be as easy of a win as this past week. But I think if we take care of business, do our assignments, like I said, contain quarterback, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. Let's get dynamic on offense, and we should be okay.
Yep. Yeah. I don't have much to add. Just do whatever it takes. Play our game. I think if we play our game and do things well that we can control, we win this game, move to 2-0, and move on to Backyard Brawl week.
Yep. Get 1-0 in the week. Learn some stuff about the team from playing another Power 5 opponent. Move on to Brawl. I'm going to set a bet on myself. Before we head out, let's talk about the other games on the weekend. I'm telling you right now, the Thursday and Friday games are a bunch of heap and paws of dog shit. Do not watch them. Start off 12 p.m. on Fox, Nebraska, Colorado. We alluded to it earlier. I think Colorado's going to win. I think they've already sold out the game, if I'm not mistaken.
The Deion effect, man.
Deion effect. I mean, you alluded to earlier, but Nebraska looked terrible. Jeff Sims is a terrible transfer quarterback addition from what it looked like at their game against Minnesota, where he had 3 picks. But I'm excited to watch one. He's probably the only good one in the slate, but Sam's going to be rocking. I'm going to shout out Ole Miss Tulane at 3:30 on ESPN2. I think that's actually going to be a pretty good game. Michael Pratt looked pretty good last week in his return for Tulane. Ole Miss is Ole Miss. They're going to throw the ball over the yard.
That one's actually also going to be my Christmas matchup of the week this week. So I didn't give a recap of last week's, but Michigan State covered the spread pretty easily. I think the final score was 31-7. Not much to recap there. Pretty much a bloodbath. Christmas matchup of the week 2. Should be a much closer game. We got Ole Miss and Tulane at 3:30.
All right.
Also in the 3:30 slot, I just have this one out because whoever loses is going to be very funny to see. The posts, Texas A&M at Miami, 3:30 ABC. This is just the funny loser game. We're going to get a lot of good message board screenshots out of this one. Moving into the night slate, if the Pitt game is in commercial, Texas, Alabama, 7 o'clock on ESPN. Do you guys think Texas can do it?
If there is ever a year to do it, this is the one.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get memes from this game either way, but I'd like to see them go in and do it.
Yeah, I would love Texas to do it. And yeah, like Mason said, I think if there's any year that they really have a chance, it's this one. So surprise a lot of people and go into Tuscaloosa and take that one.
I think either result of this game is going to make me happy, but I think Alabama losing is just a little bit more happiness for me personally.
I think if Texas wins, you get one more kind of situation where it becomes their Big 12 to lose again. Like you kind of, at that point, you have the player in the ACC, you have the player in the Big 12 that if they're going in to beat Alabama, I don't think anybody else in the Big 12 is really, touching them. So it would be a huge statement win for, I guess, the conference as a whole, kind of.
Yeah, for sure. However, I'm going to raise you this. If they beat Alabama on the road, they're going to immediately turn around and faceplant, lose to Wyoming at home, to our quote-unquote white boy of the week. No, I mean...
Beat Texas. Hey, the Wyoming beat Texas Tech, so...
Hey, they run the state. Well, the Wyoming shadow government is going to take over the state of Texas. Other games in that 7 o'clock slot, Oregon, Texas Tech would have been good if Texas Tech didn't biff it against Wyoming.
Wouldn't it be funny?
Cool color matchup.
Wouldn't it be funny if Texas Tech turn around and beat Oregon this week?
It would. But it's not wouldn't it be funny?
Okay. All right. We're on standby. Let me know if I passed it over already.
You did. You want me to just talk about it now?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So the wouldn't it be funny of the week? UNC looked pretty good last week. Getting that win over USC. That's the University of South Carolina. Defense looked like it made some improvements, which we thought was going to be an issue. So they look pretty good. I think a lot of people are pretty high on UNC right now. And then in comes Appalachian State. We know how that game went last year. It was wonky. It was silly. It was crazy at the end. I just think that would be a really funny for as high as some people are on UNC for good old App State to bring them down.
Respect.
I agree. Solid pick. All right. Capping out the week 2 slate. UCF goes to Boise, 7 o'clock on FS1. Just going to shout out another G5 top-level matchup there. And then in the it's going to get weird slot, you have Auburn going to Cal at 10:30 on ESPN. I have no read on this game. I have no idea what's going to happen, but the fact that Auburn is going to the West Coast and playing at night, I'm going to put a pin in it and saying it's going to get weird. Like that's some Pac-12 after dark voodoo bullshit. So I'm going to keep my eye on that one. And then I'm bringing a new segment this year. No more big money move parlay because I'm dog shit at it. I'm putting one of 2 teams on upset alert. Either Wisconsin going to Washington State, because I don't think they look that good against Buffalo this week, or Mississippi State hosting Arizona. I'm putting those 2 teams, Wisconsin and Mississippi State, on upset alert, both at 7:30. I don't even know if they're favored. Probably, I think. They feel like favorites to me.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. You said Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a 6.5 point favorite. What was the other one?
Mississippi State hosting Arizona.
9 point favorite.
I'm not going to guarantee. Okay, so I'm putting them both on upset alert. I'm going to say one of them gets upset. I'm going to go with Mississippi State.
All right, so if you take both those teams money line, you might both could happen. If one happens, you kind of break even.
Might have to do it. Anything else before we head out for the week?
Did we talk, because you said Cal reminded me about it, but I don't think we talked conference realignment.
Oh God, we did not. Holy shit!
Speaking of Pac-12 after dark, we're gonna have some trips to the West fucking Coast, boys.
Dude, honestly, like it does after an entire offseason of conference realignment. Like I am kind of excited for Cal and Stanford and SMU. Like SMU is gonna be fun. Cal and Stanford have good uniforms. Stanford could be good again with this new coach, big scheme guy. But the entire outcome of conference realignment is that Oregon State and Washington State effectively just got kicked out of the Power Five, and that's all the conference realignment did.
They were talking about that on Part of My Take today, and I guess apparently there's like a minimum number of teams that you need in a conference for it to exist and be functional. But there's like a 2-year grace period you have to like kind of figure that out. So there's a very real possibility that there could just be a 2-team Pac-12 of who's left? Oregon State, and I'm blanking on the other one that you just said.
Washington State.
Oregon State and Washington State could literally just play for a Pac-12 championship like against each other. There's just 2 teams in a conference.
Yeah, the Spike Conference. Yeah, I'm down for that.
It would actually be very, very funny to have a banner for Pac-12 champion.
Yeah, I'm all for it, honestly. Kind of just do that for a couple of years, and then I guess call up some Mountain West teams or something. I don't know. How do you guys feel about Cal, Stanford, and SMU?
If you look at, like you said, what happened to these other conferences, and it's not really being regional anymore, I think they're a perfect fit.
It's like a logical end, right?
Yeah, like for kind of what was left on the table, I think it's a good fit. So I don't mind bringing them in. I think it's great for the conference as a whole. Still probably have some gripes from Florida State, but it gives us that little bit of security where if we were to lose a team or two, the conference would survive and we don't go to like a group of 5. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I agree with that last point. Boys might have to make a trip to Berkeley in a couple years.
Where is SMU? Is that Dallas?
Dallas, yeah.
I don't hate that either.
There was a report that they're going to use Dallas as a hub for Olympic sports because the travel would be insane for a lot of them, which it's so dumb that it's kind of smart because no other conference has been like, oh, let's use like some sort of middle ground for a lot of stuff. Like, obviously you want to give teams home games, but for things like track and field and what are other meet-based sports? I don't know, but
swimming.
Swimming, yeah, swimming. Like that's a pretty solid idea. Honestly, as a volleyball guy, I'm excited for Stanford to come into the ACC. They're a powerhouse team. I think they're decent baseball schools. I have no idea. I think they're both bad at basketball, but all I know is that we're going to get some very, very weird games, no matter if Pitt is playing or not. Whoever's in that West Coast slot on the Stanford Cal ACC network match at fucking midnight, you know that game's going to get freaky.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be weird to have those like 10 o'clock kicks. Usually you're just watching those games in passing if you have a bet on it, or if you're trying to watch one of the better teams in the Pac-12. So it's going to be interesting to like actually have to follow the entire slate of the day to know what's going on in your conference. But I don't hate it. It's more for us to care about in the world of college football.
I know there's going to be one weekend where Pitt gets like the 10:30 slot or whatever. I'm like tired. I'm passing out from day drinking at like maybe 11:45. Wake up in the morning. It's just like, oh, cool, we lost in double overtime. Like that's the fear. That's the fear is that I'm gonna fall asleep watching this game. Wake up and go, oh great, my Sundays are ruined.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. That's the prophecy.
Oh. Welcome to the ACC, Stanford, Cal, SMU. From all of us here at Semple Fi Podcast, we welcome you with open arms. And with that, that's going to do it for us for this week. We'll be back after we slate. We'll be recapping the Cincinnati game, all the other games of the weekend. We'll be previewing the WVU game, Backyard Brawl. So if you like the show, make sure to tune in next week. Tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell your family, tell your garbage man, tell the person who's ringing you up at the grocery store. I've been your host, Zach Kaminsky. Follow the pod on Twitter at Semple Fi Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Hail to Pitt.
Beat the Bearcats.